She said, "I don't want trouble." But before I could even respond, she was closer. So close I could feel her breath, see the hesitation in her eyes, and sense a pull I couldn't resist. And just like that, everything changed. Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. ***, he didn't expect her to step that close. One moment the room felt normal, the next it was tight around the edges, like the air had leaned in with them. Her hand brushed his wrist, barely a touch, almost nothing. Yet it landed with the weight of something she wasn't prepared to name. "I don't want trouble," she whispered. But the whisper didn't match the way she stayed there, inches from him, her breath warm enough to tilt his thoughts off balance. Her eyes didn't wander. They lingered, steady, almost stubborn, as if she was fighting herself and losing in slow motion. The quiet between them thickened. A ceiling fan hummed above, too soft to break the tension. His pulse stuttered under his skin, loud enough he wondered if she could hear it. She didn't pull away. Her fingers curled slightly, like they remembered the shape of his arm from another moment neither of them spoke about. A soft inhale. Her shoulder tightened. He watched her throat move when she swallowed, watched her glance at the door even though she didn't step back. Something unspoken pressed between them, neither dangerous nor safe, just alive in a way that made everything sharp. "You should go," she said, but the words drifted without conviction. Her voice trembled at the edges, not from fear, but from trying too hard to stay composed. He nodded, though he didn't move. She noticed. Her lips parted. Her gaze dropped for half a heartbeat to his mouth before returning to his eyes, quick enough to pretend it never happened. The small distance left between them pulsed with meaning they weren't ready to touch. Then she exhaled, quiet, uncertain, and her fingers slowly tightened around his wrist, pulling him the slightest bit closer, just enough to blur the line neither of them should cross. The moment froze there, trembling. Her grip loosened, then tightened again, as if her hand couldn't decide whether it was allowed to want what it wanted. The room didn't change, but something in the air shifted, settling low, warm, and unmistakably alive. "You should have left by now," she murmured, eyes fixed on the narrow space between them instead of on him. "I know," he whispered back. Neither moved. Her thumb brushed against his skin, unintentional or maybe too intentional. A small, betraying gesture that made her inhale sharply, as if the touch surprised her more than him. He felt the tremor she tried to hide, one quiet pulse through her fingers. The silence pressed in from every corner. A car passed outside, headlights sliding across the wall for half a second, casting them in a fleeting silver glow. In that brief light, he saw the hesitation in her eyes. Not rejection, not fear, something closer to recognition. Like she saw him too clearly, and that clarity scared her. She stepped back half a pace, then stopped. Her shoulder bumped the edge of the table, a soft thud that broke her posture. She steadied herself, but her breathing betrayed her. "You can't just look at me like that," she said, barely audible. "Like what?" Her gaze flickered upward, catching his for a breath too long. "Like you're waiting for me to make the mistake for you." He didn't answer. The truth lived in the silence. She brushed past him, pretending to reach for a glass on the shelf, but her arm grazed his chest. A slow, accidental sweep that neither acknowledged. The faint scent of her perfume followed, warm and familiar, turning the space between them into something charged. "Don't stand so close," she whispered, though she was the one who hadn't given him room to step away. He spoke softly. "Then move." Her hand hesitated on the glass. Her shoulders tightened. She didn't move. Another breath. A longer pause. Then she turned slightly, just enough so her face was angled toward his again, close enough that the warmth of her words brushed his cheek. "This is exactly how trouble starts." But she didn't step back, and he realized she wasn't asking him to be careful. She was asking him to decide. Her breath steadied, then faltered again, as if each second near him rewrote her resolve. She kept her hand on the glass, pretending she needed it, though her fingers remained still. He watched the slight shake in her wrist, the tension in her shoulders, the way she held herself like someone trying not to lean forward. "You're not saying anything," she said softly, not looking up. "You didn't ask anything." That made her turn. Slowly, carefully. Her eyes lifted to his, guarded but unable to hide the pull working underneath her caution. She opened her mouth, closed it again, then looked away with a low breath that wasn't quite frustration. More like surrender she wasn't ready to acknowledge. He stepped closer, only an inch, but enough that she felt the shift. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the counter. He could see the subtle rise of her chest, see the way she tried to steady her breathing. "You're doing it again," she whispered. "Doing what?" "Standing too close, without touching me." Her voice cracked slightly. "It's confusing." The honesty in her tone startled him, halting his next breath. She blinked slowly, the lashes trembling, her lips parting as if she wanted to soften the confession but couldn't find the words. Her hand left the counter and hovered midair for a second, uncertain, then brushed the back of his arm. Light, barely there, but intentional in a way that sent heat curling through the space between them. He didn't move. If anything, he held himself still so she could decide whether to break the moment or deepen it. Her touch traced down, slow and unsteady, until her fingers settled at the bend of his elbow. A fragile hold. Quiet admission. "You should step back," she whispered, though her hand stayed right where it was. "Do you want me to?" She looked down at their almost connected bodies, breath shaking. Her answer never came, not in words. Instead, she let her forehead drift closer to his, stopping just short of brushing. One heartbeat. Two. Her lashes lowered, her lips trembling with something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in far too long. He felt her breath against his mouth, and suddenly the room felt too small for restraint, too quiet for pretending, too warm for distance. She didn't close the gap, but she didn't move away, and the flicker in her eyes told him she was already dangerously close to doing both. She stayed there, barely a breath apart from him, as if the air itself held her in place. Her hand at his elbow tightened, then loosened, then tightened again. A rhythm she didn't seem aware of. Her pulse fluttered visibly at her throat, a small, unguarded tell that she was far past pretending she felt nothing. "You're making this harder," she whispered, her forehead still hovering close to his. "You keep saying that," he said quietly, "but you're the one pulling me back every time I try to step away." Her lips twitched, not quite a smile, more like a warning wrapped in longing. She exhaled, warm enough to shake the tiny bit of distance left between them. Her fingers slid a little higher on his arm, an unconscious motion, slow and drawn out, like she was memorizing the moment as it happened. He felt her breath again, saw her lashes lift, saw her fight every instinct to lean in. She finally stepped forward just enough that her shoulder brushed his chest. A soft, deliberate contact that stopped his breath. She didn't apologize. Her hand moved from his arm to the side of his shirt, catching the fabric between her fingers. Not pulling him, not pushing him away, just holding on. "I told myself I wouldn't let this happen," she murmured. "But it is happening," he said. She swallowed, her throat tense, her lips parted as if she wanted to argue but couldn't find a single reason that still mattered. Her other hand rose slowly, stopping halfway to his face, trembling slightly. She hesitated, lowered it, raised it again. Her breath hitched. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Then help me." Her eyes softened, then darkened, emotion flickering like a secret she couldn't hide anymore. She leaned in just a fraction, enough that their noses almost brushed. Her breath caught against his cheek, warm and unsteady. He could feel her lips hover near his jaw, not touching, just close enough to burn. The room thickened with something electric, something both of them were failing to control. Her fingers gripped his shirt tighter, her forehead nudging his, her breathing quicker now. "Don't," she whispered, voice trembling. "Don't what?" Her next inhale shook her whole posture. Her lips drifted near his ear, barely grazing the air beside it. Don't make me cross this line. But her body had already crossed it, and the way she held him, close, breathless, trembling, promised the next second could shatter everything they'd been trying to protect. She didn't let go. If anything, her grip on his shirt tightened until the fabric pulled, small wrinkles forming between her fingers. Her breath pressed against his cheek in uneven waves, every exhale betraying the struggle she was losing more with each second. He felt her forehead rest lightly against his temple, as if she needed the contact to stay grounded. "This wasn't supposed to happen," she whispered, voice thin, stretched, almost breaking. He didn't answer. The moment didn't need words. Her hands slid slowly down his side, fingertips tracing a line she pretended not to notice. She kept him close without admitting she wanted to. Her body leaned, subtly but unmistakably, as if gravity had shifted and he was the only steady point left. A soft knock echoed from somewhere outside the room. She froze. Not a dramatic halt, more like a sharp breath caught halfway in her chest. Her fingers still tangled in his shirt. Her eyes flicked to the door, then back to him, panic and want colliding so violently she couldn't hide either. "Don't move," she breathed. He didn't. Another knock, firmer this time. Her grip faltered. A tremor ran through her hand. She stepped back half an inch but couldn't seem to step farther. Her breathing quickened, like the world had suddenly sprinted ahead of her and she couldn't catch it. She tried to speak, nothing came out. The knock echoed again, followed by a voice calling her name through the door. Familiar. Too familiar. Her stomach tightened. She looked at him with wide eyes, fear and desire tangled in a way that made the room tilt. "I didn't expect anyone tonight," she whispered. Her voice carried implications she didn't dare unpack. She let go of his shirt, fingers falling away slowly, unwilling to release the warmth. He watched her straighten her posture, forcing calm into her body even as her pulse hammered at her throat. She brushed her hair behind her ear with a shaking hand. "They can't see you here," she said. "Not like this." The words hung between them. Not like this. Not this close. Not with her breath still lingering on his skin. Another call of her name, louder now. She ushered him toward the hallway, not pushing him exactly, just guiding with a trembling urgency. "Go. Please." He hesitated. "Are you sure?" Her eyes flicked to his. Whatever she wanted to say lived somewhere behind her panic, trapped and shining. She steadied her breathing, though her voice remained fragile. "I'll come find you. Just go for now." He stepped back, but she caught his wrist for a heartbeat, unable to let him leave without that one last connection. Her thumb brushed his skin, soft, quick, loaded. Then she released him and moved to the door. He slipped into the hallway just as she opened it. A familiar male voice greeted her. He froze mid-step, pulse spiking. Her tone changed instantly, controlled, polite, hiding everything that had just happened. But there was a crack in it, barely there, enough to make him pause in the shadows. And then he heard the man say, lightly, casually, "I thought you said you were over all this." Her silence after that cut deeper than any touch. The room seemed to shrink around them, shadows pooling in corners as the fading light touched her face just so, highlighting the curve of her cheek, the faint tremble in her lips. He could feel it, her hesitation, her restraint, but also the undeniable pull between them, a gravity neither wanted to fight. Every breath they drew was shallow, almost shared, mingling in the quiet that had become charged with expectation. Her hand brushed his, almost by accident, but the contact lingered longer than necessary. His fingers twitched, and a shiver ran up her arm, small, electric, impossible to ignore. She let out a soft, almost imperceptible sigh, and it hit him like a confession. Neither moved to break the tension, and somehow that made it worse, the anticipation pressing against them like a living thing. "You shouldn't," she whispered, words breaking off as her gaze dropped to his mouth, then back up, searching for something unspoken. He leaned just enough to feel her warmth, the subtle scent of her perfume enveloping him, making the air around them feel heavy, intimate, like the world had shrunk to just the two of them. Her fingers found his jawline, a feather-light touch that carried more weight than words ever could. His own hand rose without thinking, hovering near her shoulder, trembling with the urge to close the distance. Time stretched, suspended, every heartbeat louder than the last. Then, her phone buzzed sharply, an unwelcome intrusion that shattered the fragile bubble. She froze, pulling slightly away, but not completely. He saw the flicker of frustration, the want that still lingered in her eyes, and realized just how impossible it was to step back now. The moment held on a knife's edge, the unspoken question hanging between them. How far would they let themselves go before something broke? And just like that, the world outside the door seemed irrelevant. The door clicked softly behind them, a faint echo that did nothing to pull them back from the edge. She lingered close, her hand still brushing against his, a touch that said more than words could. The air between them hummed with all the things they hadn't said, the moments they'd almost crossed, the sparks that had threatened to ignite. He studied her, the way her hair fell loosely over her shoulder, the way her eyes darted to his lips and then away, as if daring him to make a move. She laughed softly, a nervous, low sound, and it sent a thrill straight through him. There was no shame in it, only an acknowledgement that something dangerous, beautiful, and fleeting had bloomed here between them. "You're impossible," she whispered, half scolding, half pleading, and the corners of her mouth betrayed a smile she didn't fully allow herself. He smiled back, a little crooked, tired but utterly captivated. Every hesitation, every pause, every stolen glance had led to this quiet, suspended understanding. They had changed something between them, and neither could go back. They moved apart slowly, but the air clung to them like smoke, heavy with the memory of heat, closeness, and unspoken desire. He reached out once more, just a fingertip grazing her hand, a promise without words. She let it linger before slipping her hand away, leaving him wanting, waiting, and aware of a magnetic pull he couldn't name. Outside, the night was deep, the city lights faint and distant. Inside, everything had shifted. The ordinary had become charged, mundane space transformed into a memory neither would forget. The story between them didn't need an ending. The tension, the longing, the brush of possibility was enough to mark them both forever. She leaned back slightly, offering a small, mischievous grin. "Next time," she said softly, and with that, she left, the door clicking shut behind her, and he stayed there, hand in midair, heart racing, thinking only of the next impossible moment when their worlds might collide again.